Hey everyone, I wanted to give you an update on my progress with version 1080, and the primary focus of this particular build is visibility conditioning, but I'm still working on that. So I won't be demonstrating how that will work or how the progress is currently underway with that particular feature. However, I was able to slot another feature into this particular build, and I completed it very late last night, very early this morning, amongst some other fixes and changes to this build so far. So I just wanted to, go over some of those changes. And obviously this new feature that I've managed to kind of squeeze in or shoehorn into this particular build. So let's go over some of the fixes and enhancements, at least from a visual perspective. Okay, so right out of the gate, I've added these icons at the top of the main window now, and the audio control for videos is no longer displayed here in the bottom left. As someone noted at work, it was almost like an Easter egg, so I've put it up here, so at least that way it's always in a consistent location. Now on the previous build, I had introduced the ability to set the targeted publish aspect ratio, as you can see here. Okay. Well, I'm currently working on actually presenting that aspect ratio within the editor. At the moment, I've only got it halfway working on this main window here, but it is my intention to not only show it on this main window, but when you go into the editor itself, it will adjust the editor to the appropriate selected aspect ratio. So right now it's set to stretch, and my desktop is running in 4K, so it's already running in 16:9. But if I change it to 4:3, there you go. All right. So not only is the setting informative as to what your theme is currently set to, but visually now, if you're running in this case, if you're running in a resolution that's non 4:3, at least you'll see what your theme will look like on a 4:3 resolution. Okay. And then obviously these icons here, the view and custom images, they were previously down here in the bottom left. I've moved them up here. There will be some additional icons added in the future. I know that there's some additional work that Jason Carr is, or at least thinking about right now, and so I was really kind of preparing for that particular release or set of changes to Big Box down the road. So anyway, having all these icons up here makes a lot more sense. Like I said, at least it's in a consistent location, and obviously I've got room to grow. So that's about it for aspect ratio. So how about switching views? Just a subtle change here. You can see the current view that you can see the view you're currently on, and then obviously you can click on the view you wish to go to by doing that. Now, I don't know you'll probably notice when you actually start using this build, but hopefully you can see that, or see this particular change in the video, is that when I switch between views now, actually it'll be more apparent if I switch to a theme that has a lot more animations going on. This would be a good one. So as soon as I switch to this view, animations kick off. Okay. Under the previous builds, the way that the animations were being triggered and the way that the view was being loaded, I had a lot of asynchronous processing going on, and they were colliding with one another. So what was actually happening was the view would display briefly in a half-built state, then the animations would kick in at different points, and then it would synchronize. So what I've tried to do, or at least I've got it to, at least 95% of the way there, is that when you switch views, all the asynchronous processing is done, but then when it gets to its final point, that's when the final rendering is done. So you don't get this little initial glitch at the beginning when you switch views. So it's a lot cleaner now. All right. Again, let me just switch to one more theme. Okay, so if I switch to this view, for example, it'll close out, come in nicely, and you see all the loaded animations triggered for the first time. And then obviously if I now go up and down through the selection, the animations are triggered as you would expect them to be triggered, or at least the way that you would see them in Big Box. So I've adjusted the animation trigger timing of these particular events, and now it's the end result. It's a lot cleaner, and it's a lot closer to what you will see ultimately in Big Box. So I'm very pleased with the result on this. It looks a lot cleaner so far. Let's see. Yeah, there was a couple of, so those were some background changes. I wouldn't say they were bugs per se. It was just some cleanup on some code based on the heavy amount of work I'd done in the previous build. Let's see, if I go to playlists and go to some at the bottom here. Actually, if I jump to a platform view, some of these playlists were not being displayed. Some of the metadata, or at least in this case the video, was not being displayed. There were certain things that I was looking for in these XML files, and assuming that information will always be there. That is not always the case. So I tweaked the logic behind the scenes when it passes and examines these playlist XML files. So the result is, well, one, it doesn't crash, and two, you're actually getting the associated image metadata, or in this case the video metadata. So that was at least one bug fix. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's go back to aspect ratio real quick. So I didn't realize this because it's not something I had really done. So obviously in the previous build, I had allowed you to set the target aspect ratio, and of course all the themes that I generally play with are set to stretch because I want the themes to be able to work on any aspect ratio. But it wasn't until I was actually playing around with this I realized that I I had a slight glitch in my code generator, and that was actually it'll be easier if I demonstrate. So I've set this theme to run in 4.3. Okay, I'll go ahead and publish, and it'll take a little while because of all the custom images it's got to copy. Yeah, it's just a lot easier for me to demonstrate visually as opposed to just saying I fixed it. And just as a note here, as you can see, this circle is no longer a circle, and that's, like I was explaining earlier, is that at the moment this is only 50% complete on this window. I'm yet to circle back and finish off the code. So the idea is if I switch a theme to 4.3, not only will it resize or reshape or resize proportionally the target aspect ratio on this particular window, but behind the scenes it will set up the theme to say this is the resolution that you should now be leveraging, so that way when it does its rendering it'll be correct, and that circle will actually be a true circle and not stretched. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of point that out. Okay, so the theme has been published. So let me just close the theme creator a second, and I'll jump into Big Box. And I believe my theme is plain and simple. Yes, it is. Okay, perfect. So as I published this theme as 4.3, we have at least, I'm running it on a 16:9 aspect ratio resolution. So as you would expect, my published theme is showing the black bars on the left and right. However, under the previous build, once you build a theme in a different resolution or a different aspect ratio to what your PC is running under, you will not get the black bars per se, especially with a theme like this where the background is actually expanding and contracting, and what it was doing was expanding and going into the black bars. So yeah, it wasn't correct at all. Anyway, that's been fixed. So regardless of the aspect ratio, it will the theme will be fixed within that canvas area, if you will. All right. So I just wanted to kind of point that one out, or at least if you have noticed that, and before you shoot me a note to say, hey, this is not working correctly, you can see it's been fixed within this build. All right. So let's jump out of Big Box. We'll go back into the theme creator. Or will we go back into the theme creator? You know what? I'm not going to go into the theme creator. I'm going to go into Launchbox. And what I want to talk about now is custom fields. And this was a request that had been made a couple of months ago. Well, seems like forever. It was a fair while ago, actually. And to be honest, I had not had much experience with custom fields. I knew that custom fields were supported in Launchbox. I hadn't played with it or experimented with it in any shape or form, and it wasn't until the past week or so, adding this particular feature to the theme creator, that I was, becoming more and more familiar with what's actually going on with custom fields. So arcade would be a good example. So if I click on a game, right click on a game and select edit, and for this game, fine, you see all the metadata here, but on this custom fields, this is just for me, for my testing, okay? But the idea being is that if there's some metadata that you're willing to take the time and bring all this extra information into your game collection, this is a way that you can do it. And you would specify your unique field names or tags on the left, and then obviously per game you would give the appropriate result for that tag. Okay, so what I'm going to do actually is come out of here. I actually have an XML file provided by an individual that had made this request, because he's actually taken a great deal of time to add all these custom fields. And if I just quickly search for, is it custom field, custom value? I just want to make sure I got the right file. Yeah, there you go. Custom fields. So there's one here called arcade controls, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm going to do is just temporarily use this XML file just to demonstrate. That way I don't have to kind of use some goofy values. All right. So I'm just going to go to File Explorer. I'm going to go to my Launchbox folder and Data, Platforms. Okay, so we have Windows here, and obviously this is mine. All right, cool. So now what I'll do, I'll open the theme creator. And we'll switch my theme back into stretch mode. And I'll pick a game view. And I'm going to switch the selected platform to Windows. All right. Now remember, this is not my game list. This came off the this guy's XML file. So I'll be very surprised if I have some of the images associated with this. I certainly don't have that many PC games. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'll click Edit, and I'm going to add a text field. I'll put the text field here, and let me just increase the font size, and we select metadata, and as soon as I click on the drop down, you'll notice the initial fields now with a prefix of an asterisk. Those indicate that these are custom fields. All right, so if I pick aspect ratio, for example, for this particular game, the value is yes, aspect ratio support. Okay, now if I go ahead and click this examine values, this has now scanned all XML files that I have in my Launchbox directory, and it is looking for unique custom values or custom field values for this selected custom field. So this custom field is for 3 aspect ratio support. So it's just scanned every single XML file I have and pulled in a list of unique values. Okay. Now in this case, it's found them in the Windows XML. Excuse me, in the Windows XML file. So this is the origin of where these values come from. All right. So it's a good way of actually seeing if you're consistent with the values that you're assigning to your different games. All right. Now, this will become very important in a second. So that gives you an idea of the values that will be returned for this particular field. All right. I can go ahead and pick another one. So like arcade controls, controller support. These are the 2 that I had out there originally. Keyboard mouse support. Again, I can click on examine values. What's this one? LAN support. Okay, that's cool. Local players supported. Okay. All right, so you get the idea. Now that's a text field. Let's see, we can go ahead and add text scroller. I'll put it here. Let's see, can I do this? It won't let me. That's okay. I think that was local players supported. Do that. And let me change the scroller and let me change the font size so it's consistent. Okay. So the same value can be loaded into the text scroller. And again, you know, different fields. So that was aspect ratio support. Aspect ratio support. Okay, great. So that's text scroller. Now, let's go with this one. Not that one. Let's go with image. All right. Okay. Select metadata, metadata image, aspect ratio support. Again, I can click examine values, but because I'm wanting to use a custom field for image purposes, what it's going to do is automatically translate the value to a valid image file. So in this case, they're all valid. It's going to append .png to the end of the values. Okay, so the idea would be you would say this is the custom field I wish to use, and for every value that for the value that's returned for this particular game, go and grab an image named, you know, whatever the value is plus .png, and I want you to pull it from, I don't know, this folder, for example. Okay. And obviously, if it doesn't exist, if you want to fall back, you can do that too. All right. Now, what's interesting is that if I were to introduce some characters, or you may have introduced some characters into your custom field value that is not that once translated would not be a valid file name, don't fear. Behind the scenes, I will translate that and ensure that the file name will be valid, and therefore you'll be able to supply an associated image for it. So what we'll do, I'm going to save the view as it stands right now, and I'll explain what I mean. All right, so that's the text games view. I'm just going to minimize this one. We're going to go back into Launchbox. And I'm just going to edit some values for some of these Windows games. So let's go into Windows. I guess I could pick the first game. Edit. Okay, custom fields. All right. So what I want to do here is so I mean, this is a terrible example. Let's say instead of using a dash, a colon was used. Okay. All right. And I just want to verify something. So if I wanted to save something, for example, yeah, so colon is not a valid character in a file name. All right. So, and as that field value has a colon in it, what will happen? Well, we'll find out in a sec. So if I select that game, and as you can see, the text is translated, at least on the preview you can see this, it says yes, colon locked, and then if I click on the image and scroll down and look at, click on examine values, what it's done here is it's saying these are all the values I've located in this XML file, and one of which is invalid, and I've automatically scrubbed that file name and made it valid. So it took out the colon and replaced it with an underline. Okay, and then it's just warning you or bringing it to your attention that, hey, if you're expecting this file name to be displayed or an image to be displayed, if you get this value, it's not going to display it. So this is what you would use in its place. Or it may have been a typo. So you would just simply look for yes colon locked in the XML file and replace it with yes dash locked in this case. So like I said, this window serves a couple of purposes. It really kind of assists in making sure that your values used for your custom fields are unique, and you know, the formatting of which is not all over the place. So this example, as you saw, was you know, these values were consistently used throughout the games, and it wasn't until I actually introduced an invalid value that I caused a difference there. So I think that's all I can speak to on custom fields. Well, I guess there's one more. So let's see, animated GIF. And again, for consistency's sake, I was asked to allow metadata fields to be used for animated GIF, and if I'm using metadata, I might as well make it metadata and custom field support. So that's exactly what I've done here. So Again, if I select this custom field, this custom field here, aspect ratio support, pick a folder. I know I don't have associated images for these values being returned, but now if I click on examine values, it's looking for these file names, obviously with the extension of GIF now, okay, as opposed to PNG. So again, this is a good way of seeing what the expected file names would be if you were to try and translate a value to an image file name. All right, so I think this little window will be extremely useful, troubleshooting your own values and obviously seeing what files or what images you would need to create. So it's pretty cool. Let me see. Yeah, that was pretty much the extent of it. You know, a lot of work went into the background of animation triggering, synchronization, the refreshing of the views. Started on the aspect ratio, which I'm really excited about, especially when I get to finish it off. It should look pretty incredible. And then some of the other glitches and whatnot that have been fixed. Oh, and I have put in finally I've put in a help about panel, and you actually get to see the it gives you a little bit more information than the top left here. You can actually see the DLLs that are referenced within this particular application. More importantly, it will show every single individual that has contributed in some shape or form to the creation you know, evolution, I guess, of this particular piece of software. So, you know, I've been making notes of who's been making requests or reporting a bug, and I've been doing that ever since the beginning, and I figured it was time to put those names in a list and make them available here. So here they are. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, you know, for the most part, the build as it stands right now obviously has custom field support. I'm not going to finish there. I've got visibility conditioning to continue with. It's a little bit more involved, and it's not from a coding perspective, but from a user interface perspective. Again, you know, this is coding or logic. I'm presenting logic conditioning, and I want to present it in a way that makes sense to non-programmers. So that's where I'm having a bit of a hard time. Just like I was having a hard time with the animation editor, which I believe I got right with the user interface. So I'm trying to make sure I continue on that path of presenting something that's very easy to understand and follow and use. All right, so that's why I didn't really want to show anything at this point, because it's still a work in progress. And as far as visibility conditioning is concerned, all will be explained when that's ready to preview or ready to show, okay, and what that ultimately means. And I think you'll like it, especially with this particular theme. It's a great example of where that can be used and where it will be used for this particular theme. And I won't go into it in any other detail other than this is the theme that I will be applying that new logic to, just so that you can understand where I'm coming from. All right, but until then, it's probably going to be another week or two before I'm ready to show the progress on that feature. So again, take care, and I'll see you in, hopefully, fingers crossed, 2 weekends time. All right, thanks very much.